your budget is actually sabotaging your financial goals. In fact, the way that most people budget is simply wrong. Today, I want to show you how reverse budgeting can help you hit your financial goals a lot faster and actually hack your brain to help you save more money. Hi, I'm Jacob Wade from Lunch Money. I'm a financial coach, and the entire point of budgeting is to help you save more money and stop wasting it. But most of the time, people create a budget and then end up with no extra money at the end of the month and just frustrated. So if you've ever been in that situation, reverse budgeting might be the solution. So today I'm going to walk you through what reverse budgeting is and how it's different than a traditional budget. I want to walk you through step by step how to set your own reverse budget up so that you'll save more money automatically. And then I want to show you how Lunch Money has the feature built in so you can literally just drag and drop your budget into a place that helps you save money, prioritize yourself first, and hacks your brain to hit your financial goals faster. And don't worry, along the way, I'm gonna show some real life examples of how you can actually apply this to your life to make a huge difference. So let's dive in. So what exactly is reverse budgeting? Well, a regular budget starts at the top with your income, and then you take out your fixed expenses like your bills and your mortgage, things like that. And then what's left over is for your daily expenditures. That's groceries, gas, restaurants, online shopping, things like that. And then at the very end, you might squeeze a few pennies out to put towards saving. But if you've ever heard of Parkinson's law, you know that this doesn't work. Parkinson's law is around time, but basically it says work will expand to the time you give it. The same thing happens with your money in a traditional budget. Whatever you allow to happen, you will spend all of that money. So if you have your fixed expenses and your daily expenditures, and then there's a little bit left over at savings, all this stuff will absorb every bit of your money, and there's going to be a tiny bit left over at the end. Reverse budgeting is the opposite of that. You take the entire equation and you flip it upside down. So you've got your income at the top, and then the first line item, the most important thing in your budget, is going to be your savings and investments, your financial goals. And so when you put that at the top and you make sure you allocate that money first, then you only live on what's left over. So here's an example. Let's say Mike has a $4,000 a month budget, and so he takes care of his mortgage and his bills and everything else. And with his daily expenditures, he makes sure to allocate money toward groceries, restaurants, fun things, daily shopping, stuff like that. At the very end of the month, he might have about $50 left over, and he'll maybe put that in his savings account. But let's be real, if you have any money left over in your checking, usually it just sits there and either gets spent or absorbed into the next month, and it never actually hits your savings account. It never actually hits your investment accounts. But with reverse budgeting, Mike flips the entire equation upside down. And so he has $4,000 a month to allocate, but his first $400 goes toward his savings and investments. He puts $200 toward building his emergency fund, and he puts $200 into a Roth IRA. He actually automates this. So when he gets paid, the money goes to those accounts automatically. Now, Mike has $3,600 left over to live on. Guess what happens? Mike figures out how to live on $3,600, whether he negotiates his bills down or he just spends a little less out because, hey, I have a few $100s less per month to just spend on the daily. That is Parkinson's law at work. He squeezes his budget down to $3,600 and he learns how to live within that box. This is how reverse budgeting works, and this is why it helps you save more money. I know what you're thinking. You might be thinking, Jake, okay, that seems so simple. Just spend less money. Okay, but it's not that. Let me show you how to set up a reverse budget so you know how it can actually impact your daily finances. So first things first is you're gonna have your income at the top of your budget, as always. Like, let's say it's $5,000. The first thing you're gonna wanna do is think through, what are my financial and savings goals? This isn't, what bills are due and what am I gonna spend this month? It's a different mindset, right? You're now thinking, pay myself first. What are my goals? You put those at the forefront. So that's why it's so important to put those at the top of your budget. So you think of a couple of financial goals. One could be, I got to build my emergency fund. You at least want to have a month of expenses set aside for financial emergencies that are immediate, but ideally you have 3 to 6 months set aside and maybe like a high yield savings account. So you could even create, open up a high yield savings account and say, okay, here's my emergency fund financial goal. You can set that up. Another one is investing for your financial future, right? We know that retirement, Social Security is not going to take care of you. You got to make sure you're investing for yourself as well. And there's a ton of accounts out there. There's things like the Roth IRA. You can make sure you're contributing to your 401k if you got it at work. There's health savings accounts. There's a brokerage account. There's all kinds of different investment accounts that you can open up. But set a financial goal. Hey, let me put away at least a couple $100s a month into these investments because compound interest takes time, and I know I need to build that into my budget. And one of the biggest mistakes people make is waiting until later, till I have more money to start investing. No, do that now. Use the reverse budget to prioritize it. Another financial goal could be just saving up for a larger purchase. These are called sinking funds or savings buckets, but the idea is to set aside small amounts of money per month toward these larger future expenses. So if you know, hey, I'm going to need a new car in about 3 years, let's start putting a few $100s away so you have the cash set aside for that new car in a couple of years. And then finally, if debt payoff is one of your goals, let's prioritize that. Let's make extra debt payments on one of your debts and start to knock that out. Put that at the top of your budget. So you could have saving for emergencies and savings buckets and investments, right? You can have all those things at the top of your budget. So an example would be, let's say Sarah does have a $5,000 a month budget and she needs to start allocating toward financial goals first. So Sarah decides to put $500 a month away toward her emergency fund and $500 a month away toward her retirement. Those are massive goals, and that is a big chunk of money. That's saving about 20% of her income. But now she guarantees, okay, every time I get paid, maybe she puts $250 into each per paycheck, right? Gets paid every other week. She makes sure those things are funded. So eventually her emergency fund is fully funded and she could stop contributing to it. And maybe she starts to put more toward retirement, or maybe she wants to start funding her dream vacation and puts a few $100s away. Whatever that is, having those at the top makes sure they happen first, and then she lives on whatever's left over. So if she has a $5,000 budget, now she has $4,000 to live on for the rest of the month, and she makes a budget that works within that $4,000. All right, so once you prioritize savings, you actually still have to build the rest of the budget, and that's the key, is you need to figure out what's a bare minimum number that I can actually live on. So in Sarah's case, she's got $5,000, she's allocating $1,000 towards savings and investing. That's a very important thing for her. So she's going to make sure that she does that. Now she's going to live on the rest of that $4,000. So she needs to add up her fixed expenses, right? Her mortgage, her utility costs, her subscription costs, maybe she has childcare, whatever those costs are, she needs to make sure those are allocated. Ideally, her fixed expenses don't take up more than about 50% of her budget, but she puts all of those in there, and so maybe it does take up about $2,000 a month for her fixed expenses. If it's more than $2,000, she's going to have a little less money available for her variable expenses, right? This is the whole, how do I make this work? And that's why you add up all the numbers and figure out what number works. Maybe she can't quite save the $1,000 a month. Maybe she starts at $500 and then ratchets it up as her income goes. But the idea is, try to fit within a smaller box and make sure this savings is treated like an automatic bill. It has to happen. So once you've got your fixed expenses allocated, you know exactly how much you have left over. So let's say you spend $2,500 on fixed expenses, you got about $1,500 left over for daily expenditures. So that could be your groceries, your gas costs, bus pass if you got to take public transportation, Uber costs, entertainment, eating out, online shopping, all of those daily expenses that kind of change month to month. You got to fit it within that $1,500 box. Again, this is Parkinson's law at work. It squeezes you in and you go, okay, how do I make sure this works? This is where you have to make some more intentional decisions about your money. You need to maybe meal prep more, or I'm going to eat out every other week instead of every week. Whatever that is, you start to make decisions that make you fit within the box that you just created for yourself. And what's really cool about Lunch Money is actually we have this feature built in where it's called left to spend. How much money do I have left to spend or left to budget? So as you're creating your budget, you start putting the numbers in, it'll tell you exactly what you have left available so that you're going to fit within that box. So once you've allocated money toward savings, you've got money for your fixed expenses, you know what your bills are, and then you look at your variable expenses and you try to, again, fit within the box that you created there, you now have a reverse budget. So now you got to execute on this. And if the numbers don't add up, the first thing you're going to have to do is figure out where can I cut some expenses. So I do have a few videos on how to save more money. One right here is 12 frugal tips to help you save more money without hating your life. I'll put a link up here. There will also be a link in the description below. But the idea is to go through your fixed expenses and go, can I negotiate this bill lower? Is there a competitor's service where I can switch services and save money? Do I actually need this subscription? Start asking yourself some more difficult questions, but can I live life and lower my fixed expenses so that I don't need quite as much? Some big places you can tackle are your cell phone bill. There might be a competitor where you can cut your bill in half, or you can use a prepaid service. You can usually find a competitive internet service, and if you're in a more populated area, and cut your bill in half. I've done this several times. And car insurance can just keep going up and up and up. And if you go to a competitor, you might be able to get the exact same coverage for much, much less. You could go through your fixed expenses, comb through, and try to find a few $100s a month to save. The same thing with your variable expenses. This is where doing something like a financial audit and actually pulling all of your data for the last 90 days. Where has my money been spent? And then you can start looking at your spending decisions and going, I probably didn't need to spend in these areas, and start to cut some of that stuff out. Of course, here at Lunch Money, we do make that easy. You can connect your financial accounts. It will automatically pull in your past spending data. And as you're creating the budget, we'll even say, here's on average about how much you spend per month in these areas. But then you can click and actually look at the details of that and go, oh, I spent in these 4 places. I didn't need to eat out here. That was just convenience, or that was a lot, too much Amazon and Target.com shopping. There's some decisions you can make around daily spending to sort of create a plan and stick to it. Again, this is where reverse budgeting is so powerful, is it builds a box and says you have to live with this, within these means, and you do it. And so your savings are automated, and you're going to live within those means. And so that's where you're going to want to be when you go through and try to comb through all of your expenses to save money. And so I just want to show you how Lunch Money actually makes this really, really easy. We have this kind of built in. So as I said earlier, we'll connect your financial accounts. We'll bring in all of those transactions so you can see stuff as it comes up. You can in real time see how much am I spending in these areas. If you have no idea, if I go down here to this budget, it'll tell me last 3 periods, the last 3 months, essentially, I've averaged about $120 in this budget. I'm budgeting $350. Oh, okay. Well, I don't actually need to budget that much because I spend a lot less. So we bring some data into you for a real-time organization. But let me show you how to actually create a reverse budget right here within Lunch Money. So right now, this is a normal budget, right? Here's your income. And again, these are all just made up numbers, but here's your income, your fixed expenses, your daily spending, and then you've got your savings buckets for larger expenses, and you've got your goals here. Well, what I would do is literally, after you've set up your regular budget, you just go into setup and go to the categories section, and you can literally drag and drop yourself, and I'll get out of the way so you can see this here. So I'm going to take savings buckets and pull it right up here, right above fixed expenses. And then I'm going to go down here, and I'm going to take my financial goals and put this at the very, very top. Boom. That was it. I now have a reverse budget built into Lunch Money. So if I actually go to finances here and check out my budget, I can see, here's my income. And now my goal is $1,500 a month. About 15% of my income is going to go toward these financial goals. So I'm going to fund my emergency fund, my Roth IRA, and I'm going to start paying a little bit extra on debt per month. And then I'm going to fund these savings buckets. So I'm going to put some money into these sinking funds for annual bills, maintenance, Christmas, things like that. And then I'm going to put some money for major purchases down the road. Maybe it's a new car, it's a new cell phone, whatever that is. But as you can see, the top of my budget, I've got $2,600 allocated automatically toward my savings. Now, the rest has to go toward fixed and daily spending. And this is where I start to make adjustments. Okay, can I, like I said, on utilities, I can look at my average spending of the last 3 periods. Oh, I'm spending a lot less than I think. The weather's been mild. Okay, let me just lower this to the average. Same with insurance. I can look at these. I can look at subscriptions and memberships, for example. And so you can go through and go, okay, you know what? I probably have 3 subscriptions, to be honest, that I no longer need to be spending on. So let's cut this down to 140 to save $60 a month, right? You go through, and of course you can negotiate bills like I talked about earlier, all of those things. So this is a quick work thing you can do within Lunch Money to make sure you prioritize savings. Same thing with the daily spending. You can go through, adjust your numbers, and now we'll look at the top and realize, okay, I've got some money left over now, and I can allocate even more towards savings. I can allocate even more toward sinking funds. So as you can see, we have this feature built in. You can quickly organize your categories and make sure that savings is always right at the top, and then we show you the subtotals of those categories so you know exactly how much you're going to be putting toward those savings goals. So reverse budgeting can help you hit your financial goals faster and save more money by essentially hacking your brain and saying this is the most important thing. Saving and investing is the most important thing. Then you just live on what's left over. Again, you use Parkinson's law to just squeeze your budget in and go, I'm going to live within these parameters. And if you want to use Lunch Money to help you with this process, to help you pull in your financial data, to look at your average spending, to quickly put together those categories so you can reverse budget automatically, you've got a free 30-day trial. You can just click the link below and sign up. No credit card needed. Create your reverse budget and start tracking your spending so you can stay on track. And really the key to this whole thing is automate that savings, put that stuff away, and then live on what's left over. We'll give you the real-time data so you can do that. Again, free 30-day trial, just hit the link below. And if you want to supercharge your savings, I actually made a video here on how to save $10,000 this year alone with 6 savings hacks. So check it out right here.